Hey, what's up, everyone? Isaiah here. I posted a couple of days ago a picture of a mural that my wife has been working on. Well, it's been completed now, and it was an awesome opportunity for her to be able to work with a local artist, work with some very talented individuals on this community collaborative project, and to be able to get back into creating art, especially something on such a grand scale. Now, I wanted to do more than just share pictures of the completed work because there is so much history and personal narrative from the artist that goes into this. And so we had a chance to attend the christening ceremony or the grand reveal of the mural a couple of days ago. And so I wanted to share some of the clips of what the artist is sharing about how his story and how the narrative and the history of this country play into it. I think it's really significant because, especially in a time that's so divided, the core message of this art piece is about unity and community and the grand story of this country and how all stories are welcome in this country. So make sure you like and subscribe. I'll let the artist, Steve Prince, take it away in his own words. The ceremony opened with drumming that called people to gather together. And as you'll see, the ceremony wasn't just about publicity, but it had a very spiritual significance to it for this artist.
On the tailwinds, we can still hear the cries of our ancestors who were stolen from the motherland. From Guinea, Senegambia, Gold Coast, Benin, Biafra, Sierra Leone, West Central Africa, and Southeastern Africa. Their tears filled the Atlantic Ocean, the James, the Rappahannock, the Potomac, and the York Rivers. Baba, help us to harvest those tears and cries and have us not forget. Remind us of who we were, who we are, and who we can be. Our bellies are full of the praise songs that spawned a new generation that is not afraid to look back. A generation committed to keep singing, researching, professing, moving, creating, and making a new world that recognizes that we are one communal body. I know it was the blood, I know it was the blood, I know it was the blood for me. One day when I was lost, he died on the cross. I know it was the blood for me.
When we talk about spirituality, it's not just about religious themes, but also the connection to something larger. This is a universal need that people have, and so we saw diverse people from many cities gathered to witness this piece of art that by itself honors diverse stories being gathered together in a quilt. The christening was then followed by a poem.
Of dreams, holding sound, silence equally, make me the photograph of a child fading, but don't let it fade. Make me a layer of light, woven over another layer of night. Make me the soil broken with crops, the sun broken with time, the river broken with tears, a poem broken with rhyme. Make me another layer in history, infinitesimal yet a factory of woven, joy, forever woven, trombone, coffin, broom, banjo, bow and arrow, fingers, toes.
Now is the time for Steve, the artist, to share his vision for this work that's entitled Peace Quilt.
So my great-grandmother came up with a plan. She came up with a scheme, and she put on a hoop dress upon her body. And my great-grandmother took her two children and she hid them underneath her dress. And my great-grandmother, oh yes, she walked the freedom with those two children hidden underneath her dress. You see, one of those children underneath my great-grandmother's dress was my grandmother. My grandmother went on to give birth to 8 children. One of those 8 children was my mother. My mother went on to give birth to 4 children. My great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, and my older sister Sandra, all of them are quilters. So when I see this woman that is standing behind me, and I see the great and the monumental space in which she takes up, I'm reminded of those women that made a way out of no way, those women that made sacrifice, those women that knitted us together and held together these broken pieces and made something new and beautiful that prepared the ground for all of us in which we walk upon. I'm also reminded that I chose to make this piece out of a quilt because I know that every culture on the planet has a patchwork quilt making past. So therefore, what it means is that every culture on the planet has gone through seasons of great lack, where they had to figure out how they were going to make it with the scraps. And if they didn't figure it out, then they would perish. So when you see this mural that documents a story from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the North to the South, it is telling us a story that is all connected together, that we all are stitched together. For better or for worse, we are made up of all these broken pieces, but we're made up with the ingenuity and with the creativity and with the love that is embedded within this quilt. It is what made us. It is with the dreams that has made us. It is with the hope that has made us. It is with our memory of knowing that in the Capitol, in the Washington Monument, and the Wren Building, which is connected to Women Married, which is one of the oldest universities in the United States, over here to the right of the composition, that we also know that this institution owned slaves that cooked the food, that washed the clothes, that built the buildings. We must not forget that within that history, one of those people by the name of Emmett Till, who lost his life in Money, Mississippi in 1955 after traveling from Chicago down south. We must not forget in 1963, 4 little girls lost their lives in 16th Street Baptist Church, but we must not forget that one of those girls by the name of Sarah Collins, who was a sister to Addie Mae Collins, survived that bombing, and she's now an evangelist spreading love and hope all across this world. We must not forget those slaver ships that muddied the water with our blood. We must not forget those who worked those fields and their blood marks those fields, carrying hoe, carrying tools, and with their hands they pick the tobacco, the cotton, the sugar cane. We must not forget the original inhabitants of this land, the Powhatan, Native Americans, who were the original stewards of this land, who was decimated and who was forced off of their space. We must move to the north and be reminded of the factories and the ways in which black people moved from the south and made their way north in trying to find promised lands. As the 1933 Oldsmobile sits inside of the composition space. We must not forget that in this community we have one of the oldest African American churches in First Baptist. We must not forget those red beans and rice and those Mondays, which was wash day, and for many communities, and those red beans and rice that was made in New Orleans, and the blues man who played upon his banjo, who found joy even within the pain, as the mother plays with the broom and she sweeps floor, but it also is a symbol of matrimony when the couple jumps the broom, as a symbol of their labor and their work together as two becoming one. We must not forget that they also traveled from the south and headed north to St. Louis, as the St. Louis arches in the background, the pipe and drum man is blowing upon his flute. We must not forget the lives that have been lost as the 3 pallbearers are carrying away that soul unto heaven as they play a dirge, a mournful tune for the loss of life. As the music goes from a mournful tune into a celebratory tune, as you see the man blowing upon his trumpet. We must not forget that the ground is fertile with life as the woman's body is spread across it. You see her breast and her belly and her arm. As we come from the land from whence we come, there we shall return. As we continue to look for peace, even Even on the West Coast with the Space Needle that is over in Seattle, the dog symbolizing loyalty. A piece or a remnant of the fabric that comes from the great grandmother. A remnant of fabric that comes from the woman who stands upon her hip, who is a griot, is a storyteller, who is our memory for the community. As in also embedded is a Sankofa bird, which is looking back while also moving forward. Holds inside of its beak a seed. We must remember the symbol which is Gainami. I fear no one but God. We must remember the Adik Rahini, which is a symbol of our creativity and our imaginations. We must remember those amendments that are on the floor at our feet, that we must not forget that how much blood was shed to fight for our freedom, the fight for the right to vote, the fight to be looked upon as a human being and not to be looked upon as chattel. As the man in pink has his arms upraised, bespeaking of the Holy Spirit that flows through us all. As you look in the back pocket of the trombone players, a handkerchief, which is again a symbol of the Holy Spirit, calling upon us to remember together, to celebrate together, to know that we are part of this great and mighty quilt. All of these broken pieces that have been fashioned together by generations of women who understood that in order for us to create change, that we must all work together as one body. As the drummer reminds us of the heartbeat that flows through our bodies, he's talking back to the woman as they are in conversation back and forth over generations, over time and space.